All web servers returned HTTP 503. The culprit, an empty nginx.conf. The copy module's content parameter overwrote the file instead of leaving it untouched. Let's break down Ansible File Management modules, how it works, and the exact mistake behind that failure. Ansible File Management modules are a set of built-in modules that allow you to manage files, directories, and their contents on remote hosts. They are idempotent. Running a playbook multiple times yields the same result. Instead of SSHing into each server, you define the desired state in a playbook and let Ansible enforce it. The file module is your Swiss Army knife for managing file attributes. It can create files, directories, symlinks, and set permissions and ownership. Key parameters: state, owner, group, mode, and recurse. A common gotcha: recurse only applies permissions to existing contents, not newly created ones. Here we ensure the app data directory exists with correct permissions. Note the mode is quoted 755 as a string, not an integer. Also, recurse: yes applies permissions to existing contents. The directory itself gets its mode from the task. The copy module transfers files from the controller to the remote host. It has 3 ways to provide content: src, path on controller, content, inline string, and remote src. Yes, file already on remote. Remote src is often misunderstood. When set to yes, the src path is on the remote host. 3 ways to use copy: from local to remote, inline content, and remote to remote with remote src. Yes. Note that remote src does not support content. It only works with src. Also, the source file must exist on the remote when using remote src. The template module is like copy, but processes Jinja2 templates before writing. It's essential for generating configuration files that vary per host. Templates are stored on the controller with a J2 extension. Always specify mode to avoid UMESC issues. This task deploys an nginx configuration from a Jinja2 template. The template file nginx.conf. J2 contains variables like nginx worker connections. Always test with checkdiff to preview changes. The fetch module is the reverse of copy. It retrieves files from remote hosts and stores them on the controller. By default, files are saved in dest/hostname/path/to/file. Set flat: yes to save directly in dest with the original file name. This fetches error.log from all web servers into backup logs with flat. Yes, files are saved directly with their original name. But beware, if multiple hosts have the same file name, the last host's file overwrites previous ones. The stat module retrieves file metadata like existence, size, permissions, and checksum. It stores the result in a registered variable. Always access attributes as result.exists, not result.exists. Here we check if a config file exists, then back it up only if it does. Note the correct attribute, config stat exists. A common mistake is forgetting the stat, which leads to undefined errors. The lineinfile module ensures a specific line is present or absent in a file. It's perfect for managing configuration files where you need to add, update, or remove a single line. Always use backup. Yes to create a backup before modification. This task ensures the password authentication line is set to yes. If the regexp matches, the line is replaced. If no match, the line is added at the end. The backup, yes, creates a time-stamped backup. The blockinfile module manages multi-line blocks of text in a file. It inserts the block between begin and end marker lines. Choose a marker once and never change it, or you'll end up with duplicate blocks. This adds a virtual host block between markers. The marker must contain mark, which is replaced with begin or end. If you change the marker later, Ansible will not find the old block and will add a new one. The synchronize module wraps rsync for fast, efficient file transfers. It's ideal for syncing large directory trees. By default, mode is push, from controller to remote. For pulling from remote to controller, set mode, pull and delegate to 127001. 2 examples: push syncs website files to remote, excluding git and swap files. Pull syncs logs from remote to controller. Note the trailing slashes on src and dest. They are important to avoid directory nesting issues. This is the same issue we highlighted at the start. Here's exactly why that happened. The engineer used copy with content to clear the file, but copies force defaults to yes, so it overwrote the existing nginx.conf with an empty string. Nginx couldn't start, returning 503. The root cause was using Ansible, built-in copy with content, which overwrote etc. /nginx/nginx.conf with an empty file, causing nginx to fail to start. The fix was to use lineinfile for single-line changes instead of copy. We also added force, no to copy tasks that should not overwrite existing files. After restoring nginx.conf from backup, we reran the corrected playbook. This is the exact mistake from the incident. Using copy with an empty content string overwrites the file. Instead, use lineinfile with state, absent or copy with force, no and a valid content. If a template variable is undefined, the task fails. Use default filter to provide fallbacks, e.g., nginx worker connections default 1024. Also, beware of whitespace control with Gnya2's trim blocks. Always quote the mode parameter. Unquoted 755 is interpreted as decimal 755, which octal is 1363, completely wrong permissions. I once debugged this for hours because LSL showed unexpected permissions. When using remote src, yes, the source file must already exist on the remote host. Ansible does not create it. Always ensure the source exists or use a stat check before the copy task. When using flat, yes, files from different hosts with the same name will overwrite each other. Always use flat. No or include the hostname in the dest path, e.g. dest, backup, inventory hostname. The registered variable contains a stat key. Access attributes as result.exists, result.checksum, etc. using result.exists is always undefined and will cause the condition to fail. Make regexp as specific as possible. For example, use max clients with a space to avoid matching max clients per child. Otherwise, you may replace more lines than intended. Never change the marker after the block has been inserted. Ansible will treat it as a new block, resulting in duplicate content. Plan your marker ahead of time and stick with it. Always use trailing slashes on src and dest. Without them, synchronize will create a subdirectory. For example, src path syncs contents, while src path syncs the directory itself. The checksum algorithm parameter on the stat module was added in Ansible 2.9. If you are on an older version, the parameter is silently ignored and SHA1 is always used. Use Ansible version to check your control node version. The article mentions testing with dry run but doesn't show it. Add rsync ops, dry run to preview changes without actually syncing. Combine with check for a safe dry run. When using synchronize with become, yes, rsync may fail due to permission issues because rsync runs as the unprivileged user before escalating. To avoid this, set delegate to localhost and use become no on the synchronize task or use rsync ops. Rsync path equals sudo rsync. To debug file issues, use checkdiff to preview changes without applying. Use stat to verify file existence and attributes. Fetch the file to inspect it locally. Always test with check before running in production. Let's run through some common interview questions. Difference between copy and template. Copy transfers as is, template processes Gnya2. How to recursively set permissions. File module with recurse, yes. What is remote src? Src path is on remote host when remote src, yes. How to conditionally run a task based on file existence. Stat module with when, result.exists. And a few frequently asked questions. What is the difference between copy and template? Copy transfers as is, template processes Gnya2. How do I set permissions recursively? File module with state, directory, mode, recurse, yes. Can copy between remote hosts? No, use synchronize with delegate to. How to avoid overwriting files with fetch? Use flat, no or include hostname in dest. Let's recap the key takeaways. Always quote mode parameter. Use recurse, yes only for existing contents. Use remote src, yes for remote to remote. Test templates with checkdiff. Ready to go deeper? Up next, Ansible package and service modules, then Ansible command and shell modules, then Ansible dynamic inventory, and Ansible galaxy and collections. Find them all at TheCodeForge.io. Thanks for watching. The full article and code examples are covered in detail at TheCodeForge.io.